Hi, welcome to this short little video on plain language. And my name is Larry Dillenbeck, and I'm the web consultant working with Sue Harris, who is currently the webmaster for OHCS. And she asked me to do a short little instructional video on how to write in plain language for the web. And my background, going back, I think it was between 2002 and 2009, I was the former communication manager and organizational development manager for OHCS. And I believe it was in 2004, we migrated our current website to the new team site, then the new team site content management system. And so Sue Harris and I and a few other staff worked to make that transition. And so now, as we're transitioning to the new SharePoint platform, it's been quite a project to transition. As you are probably aware, the OHCS website is fairly large and complex. There's a lot of information. And so we're doing our best to design the new website to make things as easy as possible for people to find, to make it clear and current and understandable and so on. So we'll get into some of the specifics of that here as we go. So I have a few slides that I'd like to share with you as we go, and as well as a short video. But the main audience for this little instructable, is what we like to call them, is the web publishers for the agency, those staff members who are responsible for the actual content on the website. And it may be for a particular section or division or program. And so that's the primary audience for this particular video, but it also applies to all staff. If any of you are producing material information, whether it be forms or manuals or technical advisories, news releases, any of that kind of information that's intended for public consumption should really be written in plain language. And so it does apply to all staff, but again, primarily today I'm focusing on writing for the website. So one of the principles that I like to keep in mind is that the agency website is probably the primary vehicle for communication with all of our various audiences in the public. So of course there's the public itself, there's all of our community partners, there's the legislators, there's the media, could be students doing research. So there's lots of different audience groups that we could be considering as we write for the web and how we organize our website. And so since it is a vehicle for communication, one of the things I like to keep in mind is that communication happens when the message that you intend to send is the message that the reader or the user actually receives. And so clarity is extremely important, and plain language dramatically enhances clarity. So with that in mind, so let's get into what is plain language. And so you can see the definition up there, that it's clear, concise, well organized, and follows other practices that are appropriate to the field, the subject or field, and the intended audience. And so the criteria here, of course, is that it's clear, that it's understandable, and that means, can the reader understand it the first time they read it? I've literally, as I've been editing some of the documents and so on for the web, there have been sections and paragraphs that I have to read multiple times in order to understand it enough to translate it into plain language. So again, the idea is that the message that they receive is the message that you intend to send. So making it as easy to understand as possible is a very good thing. Also want to make sure that it's relevant to the user and the task that they intend to accomplish when they visit our site. So it could be that they're looking for a specific document or a specific piece of information and so on. So we want to make sure that all of the information that we have on the website is relevant. And as you're writing, that there isn't additional or extraneous information that wouldn't be useful or relevant. It's also important to use the active voice. That also adds clarity to the communication, but it also makes it sound, it's more action oriented. So for example, if we were to say something like, federal and state funding resources are administered by the Affordable Housing Finance Division, it would be more clear to say the Affordable Housing Finance Division administers federal and state funding resources. Now, even though that sentence itself is still rather long, it is in the active voice. And we'll get into how to make it shorter, more concise here shortly. Brevity, as the slide here suggests, keeping it brief. Be concise, stick to the point, and keep it brief. If you can say the same thing in 3 sentences rather than 6, that's so much better. And again, it's partly when we're writing for the public, you want to think of writing to the people who have the least knowledge or expertise about our agency or our programs. And so keeping it really brief, keeping it to the point, and not adding anything that would distract or confuse the reader. So let's get into what I'd like to show you now is a quick little video for how to use plain language for government websites. I believe the video is about maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds long. So let's pop over there and take a look at this video.
How to use plain language on a government website. Too often, dense writing, confusing acronyms, and fancy jargon bog down government websites. Here's how to use plain language to help your customers find what they're looking for and save your agency time and money. You will need an understanding of your audience, a willingness to write clearly, plain language training resources, and a plain language checklist. Step 1. Know who your readers are and only include information that's relevant to them. Tailor your writing to the people with the least expertise. Get a plain language checklist at plainlanguage.gov. Step 2. Keep it simple. Fancy words often confuse more than impress, especially on the web. Choose words that are concrete, familiar, and easy to understand. Avoid jargon and legalese. Whenever possible, use pronouns like we and you, and eliminate acronyms most readers won't understand. Cut every unnecessary word. Extra words bury important information and make it hard for search engines to find the most relevant material. Step 3. Write in an easy-to-understand style. Speak directly to your readers using you and we to make the information more personal and relevant. Write in the active voice, not the passive voice, and use simple verb tenses. Step 4. Organize your writing. Put the most important information first. Use a consistent layout and incorporate simple formats. Use descriptive titles and headings that include the key words your readers are searching for, so search engines can find your content. Include white space in your design to break up blocks of text and avoid the wall of words effect. Step 5. Monitor your writing. If someone can't understand the text the first time they read it, it's not written in plain language. Get feedback from peers and customers, then fix mistakes and make improvements. Step 6. Everyone from the top down should learn to use plain language. Encourage your staff to attend training through Web Manager University and consider bringing in a plain language expert to train your team. Improve your site with clear, concise, and well-organized writing to help search engines find your content, ensure people get quick answers, and reduce help desk questions. Plain and simple. Did you know? The U.S. government supports plain language. Soon, plain language may become the standard style for all government documents issued to the public. For more information, go to webcontent.gov.
I like that little introduction video because it gives a nice overview of plain language and why it's important, and also some of the specifics for how to do it. The video, however, is a little dated. It's about, I think it was 2010, 2011 that it was put out. And plain language has actually been formally adopted by both the federal government and Oregon state government. So it's actually in statute, as you can see here on the slide there. So it is the law. It is required for all public agencies to write in plain language. So if you want to research more into that statute, there are references there for you. And the idea here is that, especially for the website, that people can find what they need quickly and easily. They understand what they find and read the first time, or they understand what they find the first time they read it or hear it, and that they can use what they find to meet their needs or to accomplish the task that they came to our website to do. So again, it's really important to make it as simple and as clear and easy to understand as possible. So let's go ahead and get into some of the specifics about it. And one of the things that we've strived to do with the redesign of the OHCS website is to make it reader-centered or task-based. What that means is that what we have in mind as we organize the information, the content on the page, is that we're looking at it in a sense through the user's eyes, through the visitor's eyes, that they're coming to our website to accomplish something. They're trying to find a piece of information, or maybe fill out and submit a form. Maybe they're looking for contact information because they have further questions. Whatever their task is, we want to organize the material to make it as easy as possible for them to accomplish their task. Now, this is different from in the past. Many state government websites were organized by organizational structure in terms of divisions and sections, programs, that kind of a thing. But however, most people outside the agency don't know what our agency structure is, nor is that relevant or important for them, for the most part, to know. So it makes much more sense to organize the content in a task-based way to help the user find it, rather than trying to help them understand our organizational structure. It's also helpful to use, as the video suggested, pronouns like you and we and things like that. That goes along with the active voice, so that there are actors performing actions. And it also makes it more personal and relevant to the visitor coming to the website. It sounds less formal, it's more conversational, it's more engaging that way. Short sentences and paragraphs is the name of the game for plain language. So keeping your sentences as short as possible. So that means avoiding run-on sentences, the excessive use of commas and semicolons and things like that, to try to pack as much information into a sentence as possible. I mean, I've literally, as I've edited some of the material for the OHCS website, there have been single sentences that were a paragraph long. That it was, I don't know, maybe a half a dozen or so commas and semicolons in there. So break those large run-on sentences down into shorter sentences so that each sentence conveys a single idea. Short paragraphs are also easier to read because there's not huge blocks of text. So we want to break it into shorter paragraphs, maybe 2 to 4 sentences per paragraph. And again, keeping the sentences really short really helps. Using common everyday words rather than industry jargon, for example, or acronyms, that kind of thing that most people out in the public wouldn't understand. And then using easy to follow design features like lists, headers, tables, that kind of thing, that just breaks up the information visually, makes it into bite-sized chunks that are easier to understand, easier to integrate and digest. And the nice thing is that we have some magnificent software that helps us do this. So you don't necessarily need to like re-educate yourself on how to write in plain language very much when you have software that can make your job much easier. So the DAS, the Department of Administrative Services eGov, recommends the Hemingway editor software. Now there are other editing software out there that can help with plain language. Even Microsoft Word has editing features that will give you like the Flesch Kincaid reading ease and reading grade level, those kinds of information, word count. And so there are some features in Word that can help you, but this Hemingway editor is really designed to help you write in plain language. Now, if you consider this example here on this particular slide of Medicaid eligibility, and you look at the before language, and just notice how it's a single large block of text. There's that first sentence there has multiple use of commas and things like that. Whereas the after on the right, you can see that that information is broken into bullet lists, which makes it nice, bite-sized, simple, easy to understand, and it's chunked down visually. So that makes it much easier to understand. So how I use and how I recommend using Hemingway. So this is the interface. When you first open Hemingway, it's really a basic editor, somewhat similar to Microsoft Word. You'll see there at the top that you have the options for bolding and italics and different heading presets, bullets, numbered lists, and so on. So you can literally write it, use it to write as a text editor, or you can use it to edit content that you may have done in Word, and then you can paste it in here to do your plain language editing, and then copy and paste that into the SharePoint software. So you'll notice there on the right that it gives you some information about the text. So it'll give you a grade score, a readability score. It'll also show, so in this section here, the readability score, the grade level, and it'll give you feedback as you're writing, or if you paste something in there, it'll give you suggestions for how, what grade level to shoot for. It also will color code. It'll highlight the text, like the adverbs, and it'll give you suggestions on keeping it, for example, at 2 or less. It'll mark the uses of passive voice. It'll mark sentences that have simpler alternatives or phrases. And it'll also highlight sentences that are hard to read and sentences that are very hard to read. So let me give you an actual example from our OHCS website. So this block of text here is I copied and pasted from the website about individual development accounts, the IDAs. And so you'll notice how Hemingway has highlighted there are 7 out of 7 sentences that are hard to read. I'm sorry, that are very hard to read. So it scores this as postgraduate level. So this is, post-university education level writing. And so it's, in terms of readability, it's very poor. And so it gives the suggestion to aim for grade 14, which is not the plain language standard. Plain language standard is right around 8th or 9th grade is what we want to shoot for. So this one is so overly wordy that they're saying you'd be good just to get it to grade 14 level. So you can see it gives, for example, it highlights the adverbs in blue and says aim for 0 or fewer, which is an interesting guideline. 3 uses of the passive voice, 1 phrase that has a simpler alternative, 0 out of 7 are hard to read, and then 7 out of 7 are very hard to read. So when I ran this through Hemingway, and I went through and I kind of broke up these long run-on sentences and so on, so this is what it looks like after. So what I did is that, again, I broke up the large blocks of text into shorter paragraphs, broke up those run-on sentences into bullet lists, and even though there's still a couple of adverbs in there, and at least one sentence is a little harder to read, partly because of the use of commas in there, but it's reduced down to a level that I think is understandable. So that just gives you a taste, and there is actually more information if you were able to scroll down here, but it gives you a sense for a before and after. So here's again the before, and here's after. So you can see that it's visually much easier to understand, and then the sentences are shorter, clearer, and so on, but they essentially convey the exact same information. So that's an example of how the Hemingway software can help you. There are other resources that are out there that I think are really, really helpful. The plainlanguage.gov is a vast goldmine of information about using plain language. and particularly for government websites, government documents. The Department of Administrative Services here in Oregon has a great plain language page with lots of different resources and guides, examples, before and after examples. And they offer this plain language guide as a handout. It's a one-pager that you can see here. It gives you basically 10 steps or 10 criteria for writing in plain language. So I think this is a really good reference just to have there handy at your desk for to guide you as you're writing in plain language. So I hope this was helpful for you. I certainly have found the Hemingway software to be extremely helpful. And so if you have questions or comments about this, I would recommend that you send them to Sue Harris or whoever is the person in charge of the website through Public Affairs Office. And you can also reach me through that if you want to reach me in particular. And with that, I hope this was helpful to you. And good luck moving forward with writing for the web. And I look forward to seeing you sometime in the future. Thank you.